Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is the Piracy Show. Now, on today's show, we're going to be dealing with an interesting topic, a difficult topic, a weird topic that I have hinted at many times before and never really felt like it was the time. It was the right time to kind of make that episode, but then I witnessed once again. I mean, I've seen it so many times now that it's actually become something of a meme in the game. An incident which kind of led me to kind of go, you know what, you have to make the video to talk about this. You know, a player was talking in locals, like, and it was exactly the meme. It was like, I just spent $1 million loading up cargo on my ship, and then boom, 30K. Oh my God, I lost my 1,000,000 credits. OMG, this game is so broken. I'm leaving. Rah, 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 rah. You know, we see it all the time, whether it's 500,000, 1,000,000. We always see it. We always see these players just throwing away these astronomical sums of money, really good money, and, you know, complaining about it. And, you know, CIG tells us that supposedly our money counts, that we are building up towards something. I'm not, you know, and I've always said I'm not entirely sure about that. And I'm going to kind of go into why I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm going to kind of put myself on the firing line and explain why I think that ultimately CIG is going to cut us one more time, at least. If you think about what we're doing in the persistent universe now, and I'm kind of using the example, the footage from 310 of the new smuggling mission, the multi-stage smuggling mission, which was kind of an unwelcome discovery for a lot of us for our money-making purposes. But, you know, and I'm not stating that CIG in any way is doing this to kind of curb money-making in the persistent universe. I genuinely do believe that they are doing it for the sake of immersion, and if that is the case, then I entirely support it. Though, you know, price-wise, I would like to make more money than less. There is a very realistic possibility that ultimately CIG is going to take all our money away from us at least one more time. The reason for that is that if you think about it, if you're playing it safe and you're running smuggling missions or cargo running missions or whatever, and you're just basically stacking money, right? There's not a lot to do in the persistent universe right now. A lot of activities, because of things like 30K, are just not profitable or too risky. But missions are fairly mundane, and if you lose or if you get disconnected, you don't really lose anything, right? You either gain or break even, and that is. You know, I'm sure a lot of players would be like, yeah, that's great. That's perfect. That's fine. Gain or break even, I'm okay with that. If I lose money, I get mad. But the truth of it is that if you're just kind of doing these missions as I am, as many other players are, you're building up a tremendous amount of seed capital. And if you happen to own a ship like a Caterpillar or something like that, you can see how, like, the money that you're building up, even if you're saying like, oh man, I hear people talking about having millions of UEC and I only have, you know, like 100,000, 200,000 credits. I mean, what am I going to be able to do with that? If you really think about it, let's say that 311 comes out, because, you know, 310 is, from my experience, kind of a mixed bag right now. But let's say 311 comes out and CIG nails down a lot of things, and the game gets a lot more stable, much more towards what we might have had in 3.4, 3.5, when you could play the game for hours on end in a very smooth environment. We didn't have everything that we have now, but things were certainly a lot smoother, and money making was a lot more limited. But with the money making options that we have right now, coupled with that kind of smoothness, you could see how if you have a ship like a Caterpillar or a Freelancer Max or something like that, how you could very quickly, even something like a Cutlass, you could very quickly spin, just in the most mundane trading environment, you could spin that money into a fortune like overnight. So many of us have actually gotten to a point where we're not tremendously wealthy in any respect, but you could easily see that in a much more stable environment, even with the limited facilities that we have access to right now, we would be developing nearly astronomical amounts of wealth overnight. Now, CIG's hope, I think, is to eventually, as the economy matures, is to kind of get ahead of this problem and say, you know what? We're going to put in these controls. We're going to narrow the margins on trade goods, whatever. We're going to really nip this thing in the bud. But the problem is until they kind of come in with that, as we go from patch to patch to patch, as we go from month to month to month, week to week to week, we are building up even more and more money, so that once we get to that point of stability, there is going to be a wicked surge of people just making ridiculous amounts of money in the carrying trade in the game. And there is going to be a gold rush, and people don't realize it because the gold rush hasn't started yet, but the beginning phases of it have, and those who kind of have the foresight to kind of take advantage of this thing are just going to be sitting there quietly building up enough money so that they can kind of afford to maybe build up 2-3 full loads of high value goods on something like a Caterpillar, and then they're just going to start flipping. And when they start flipping, the money that is generated in the Star Citizen universe is really going to kind of spin out of control, because you can't really have a carrying trade in the Star Citizen universe and have a whole bunch of players who are unable to sell what they've bought. You're going to have an economy that can absorb those goods, right? If you can generate those goods, you have to be able to absorb them somewhere. And so they may try to limit it in certain ways, but the truth of the matter is the more and more time that we spend here building up that seed capital, the more and more money that we're going to have down the road. It's just going to increase exponentially. Now, there's a bunch of people who are trying to go out and flip goods right now, hoping to strike it rich. And some of them may succeed, but ultimately I think that this is where CIG is going to kind of come in and drop the hammer on us, is because the longer that this phase of the game goes on, and the more and more people who are building up this money, by the time the game actually gets to that point of stability, I think that we are going to be at a point where CIG is going to look at our bank balances and they're going to say like within a month, within 2 months, these guys are going to absolutely just completely destroy the economy. They've got too much money, and they've got too much seed capital. As Star Citizen takes so long to develop, we're just going to be building up more and more money, and people, go like, oh man, this patch sucks, it's unstable. And the rest of us are just going to be kind of going like, yep. So just going to build up more money and wait for that golden window of opportunity to open up, and then I am going to cash in. It's like this in any MMO. If you know what's going to happen in the future, like I'm going to use WoW Classic as an example. They're about to open up Anchorage. So anybody who's sitting there and they're sitting on a whole bunch of Purple Lotus in their bank account waiting for that, for that big payday, they're going to put that on the auction house and maybe get double or 3 times the price when everyone's trying to buy it to cash in to try and get their mount. There are players there who don't care about the mount who are going to make a fortune off of them because they're looking at the trade goods that they need to turn in. They're like, I'm going to have so much of that shit in the bank. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to pay for my epic mount and my epic flying in BC later. It's going to be crazy. And so there are players in Star Citizen who are looking at this situation and doing the same thing. We're looking at the future, and we know that this game is headed towards a point of stability. And we're sitting there and we're going, I'm not going to roll the dice on my entire fortune right now, but I'm going to just keep building up that seed capital. And the longer that we're trapped in this cycle, the more seed capital we're building up. And eventually CIG is going to have to either get the game to that point of stability, or they're going to have to come in and cut us off at the knees and say, we got to take some of this money back, because otherwise we're going to end up with an economy in months that is going to be money irrelevant. I mean, you're all going to be billionaires, and it's just going to be stupid. And we're going to be at a point where if we want prices to be relevant to you. We're going to have to price things in such a way that a new player coming into the game who didn't get to take advantage of that is just going to look at it and be like, you know, how the hell am I, you know, how am I supposed to buy $1 billion cutlass? You know, I mean, it'd be like a kid getting out of college with a whole bunch of like school debt and saying, how the hell am I supposed to buy a house when I'm in debt up to the price of a house just for my education? Now, how am I supposed to get started? You know, it's going to be kind of one of those crazy things for those newer players coming in. And for those of us who were here from the beginning, we're going to be sitting there going like, well, I guess, you know, sucks to be you, adjust monocle and, you know, tap out ashes off cigar. It's going to be, it's going to be crazy. And that's why I think that as much as I would love to believe that the money that we're making right now counts, I do think that this is kind of like, this is the other shoe that's going to drop. There's a couple out there. I think the flight engine, the flight physics is going to be another one, but I really think economically CIG is going to drop a bombshell on us. If they don't, I'm just going to sit here and quietly keep building up money, but if they do, I wouldn't be all that surprised. And that's kind of when CIG says, oh, the money counts, and you hear me making these kind of like references, that's why I'm doing it. I don't know. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.